Shabbat shalom to the Mishpachah, to the family of Yah. Welcome to Daughter of Yah Teaching Ministry. We greet you in the name of our Master, Yahusha Messiah, and our Father Yah, who is head over all. Welcome. I am so excited about bringing forth the third message in our final hour series, where we are going to take you through some of the final things that our master, Yahusha HaMashiach, left his disciples and his followers with before he um, descended back to the Father after he finished his perfect work. There were several conversations that he often had with his disciples and with those who desired salvation, and he left many reminders. And so we also remember too, many of us growing up, when you were old enough to stay at home by yourself. Maybe you had siblings, and there were times when you were growing up and your parents would leave the house, and right before they would leave, they might leave you with a list of things that needed to be done around the house. They may have had a list of tasks that needed to be completed before they returned, and oftentimes they would um, leave you with a series of reminders, final things before they left the house. Maybe to watch your brother and sister or give them a bath, to make sure that you're kept safe. They may say, okay, make sure that you lock the doors. Don't forget to, uh, don't talk to strangers. Don't let anyone in the house, or don't go outside. I know my parents used to tell me, don't go outside the house without permission. Okay. Be good. Don't get into any trouble. They always reminded you of things that not only needed to be done within the house, okay, tasks that they needed to be completed before they return, but also while they were out, they wanted to make sure while you're completing those tasks that you're safe and that you're not allowing anyone to come into the house, anyone or anything that would bring danger uh, to you. And so these were just many of the things that our master Yahusha. There were many conversations that he had, and so we're going to be going over these things. He will oftentimes sit in a boat with his disciples. I mean, well, he would actually be in the boat, and sometimes he would have conversations when they were in the boat. But he would oftentimes sit by in a boat off the shore, and his disciples and followers, they would gather and hear him speak from the water. And we know that he is the living waters. And so the purpose of this final hour series that the Ruach led me to begin, because we did a Fruits of the Spirit series where we went through all 9 fruits of the Spirit of the Ruach. So if you have not checked that out, I would strongly advise you to go back and check that out. We learned so many new things about the fruits of the Spirit. And because as believers, if we have no fruit, we will not enter into the kingdom if we bear no fruit. And so it's very important that we are bearing fruit, that we are growing in the fruits of the Spirit, and we know what it looks like in the life of a believer. And so if you did not check out that entire series, go back at your convenience and watch each and every one of them, and you'll be pleasantly surprised at many of the things that you did not know. And so this final hour series is a continuance of those things that before our master Yahusha return will get us prepared to be his bride, get us prepared for salvation, to make sure that we are walking on the correct path in this life. And so just wanted to start off with uh, the purpose for this. And so before we get into today's message, I want to go over a couple of things from our first and our second series to kind of transition you into what we're going to talk about today. And so we're going to revisit a very familiar story that many of us heard as a child. And the Ruach led me to kind of just do the audio for this. So I just want you to listen and watch and write down any points that the Ruach bring to your mind. And I want you to put them in the chat, okay?
Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived in a village near the forest. Whenever she went out, the little girl wore a red riding cloak, so everyone in the village called her Little Red Riding Hood. One morning, Little Red Riding Hood asked her mother if she could go to visit her grandmother, as it had been a while since they had last seen one another. That's a great idea, her mother said. So they packed a nice basket for Little Red Riding Hood to take to her grandmother. When the basket was ready, the little girl put on her red cloak and kissed her mother goodbye. Remember, go straight to Grandma's house, her mother cautioned her. Don't dawdle along the way, and please don't talk to strangers. These woods are very dangerous. Don't worry, Mommy, said Little Red Riding Hood. I'll be careful, and I'll stay on the narrow path. But when Little Red Riding Hood noticed some lovely flowers in the wood, she forgot her promise to her mom. She picked a few flowers. She watched the butterflies fly around for a while. She even listened to frogs croaking. Then she got off the narrow path to go and pick more flowers. Before Little Red Riding Hood knew it, she was enjoying the warm summer days so much that she didn't notice a dark shadow approaching out of the forest behind her. Suddenly, the wolf appeared beside her. What are you doing out here, little girl? The wolf asked in a voice as friendly as he could. I'm on my way to see my grandma who lives through the forest near the brook, Little Red Riding Hood replied. Then she realized how late she was and quickly excused herself, rushing down the path to her grandma's house. The wolf, in the meantime, took a shortcut. The wolf, a little out of breath from running, finally arrived at Grandma's house and knocked lightly at the door. Oh, dear goodness, come on in. I was worried sick that something had happened to you in the forest, said Grandma, thinking that the knock at the door was her granddaughter. The wolf let himself in. Poor Granny. She did not have time to say another word before the wolf gobbled her up. A few minutes later, Little Red Riding Hood knocked on the door. The wolf jumped into bed and he pulled the covers over his head, and in his crackly voice, who is it? It's me, Little Red Riding Hood. Oh, how lovely. Do come in, my dear, said the wolf. When Little Red Riding Hood entered the little cottage, she could scarcely recognize her grandmother. Grandmother, your voice sounds odd. Is something the matter? She asked. Oh, I just have a touch of a cold, squeaked the wolf, adding a cough at the end to prove it. But grandmother, what big ears you have, said Little Red Riding Hood as she edged closer to the bed. Oh, that's the better to hear you with, my dear, replied the wolf. But grandmother, what big eyes you have, said Little Red Riding Hood. Oh, the better to see you with, my dear, replied the wolf. But grandmother, what big teeth you have, said Little Red Riding Hood. Ah, the better to eat you with, my dear, roared the lion as he leaped out of the bed and began to chase the little girl. It was almost too late, but Little Red Riding Hood finally realized that the person in the bed was not her grandmother. She ran across the room and through the door shouting, Help! Help! Wolf! As loudly as she could. There was a woodsman who was chopping logs nearby. He heard her cry and he ran towards the cottage as fast as he could. He grabbed the wolf and he made him spit out the poor grandmother, who was a little bit frazzled by the whole experience, but was still in one piece. Thank goodness. Oh, Grandma, I was so scared, sobbed Little Red Riding Hood. I'll I'll never speak to strangers or dawdle in the forest again. I will make sure I stay on the narrow path. There, child. You have learned an important lesson. Always stay on the narrow road and stay away from the broad road that leadeth to destruction. Thank goodness you shouted loud enough for this kind woodsman to hear you. The woodsman knocked out the wolf and carried him deep into the forest where he could no longer bother any people. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother had a nice lunch and a long chat. The end.
Okay, so that is the end of the story. I hope that you guys enjoyed my animation. So, um, let's talk, and hopefully you have some things written down. Maybe you're able to kind of compare them. This story to we know the scripture tells us that our enemy, the devil, roars around like a lion, seeking whom he may devour. He's always looking. Okay, so this is not something that's happening by chance. He's lying in wait, hiding, looking for someone to devour, looking for someone who is not on that narrow path. Because we know that when we're on that path that the Father Yah has us on, we are in his presence. And those that are in his presence are in his pavilion and his tabernacles. And we know the scripture says that he hides us, that we are protected, we're safe in his presence. And so with Little Red Riding Hood, forgetting her promise, straying off the straight and narrow road to go to explore. Okay, she strayed off that narrow path to explore the broad road, um, flowers and different things that distracted her from what she was supposed to be doing. Her mother said, "Go straight to grandma's house." She told her don't do anything else because these woods, this wilderness is dangerous. So I don't want you to get off the path. Stay on the path. Don't explore. And so in this life, we're going to have things that are going to shiny new toys, different things that are going to distract us, try to take, when we take our eyes off the mark, who is Yahusha, we take our eyes off of the path that we're supposed to be on to explore the broad road and think, oh, it's no harm. When she said, I promise, her mother told her, don't dawdle off the road. Dawdle, D-A-W-D-L-E, dawdle means to delay or to procrastinate. And so when we're distracted and we're doing other things, okay, that we're delaying getting to our destination, and sometimes we might not get there, depending on, this story could have ended a different way, right? And so she's lollygagging, okay, and her straying off the narrow path to explore the broad road, the things that were distracting her on the way, it left her vulnerable to being attacked by the wolf, who is the deceiver. And so the broad road is a trap. Okay, let me say this again. The broad road is a trap, and it represents all that is false. Okay, what is the scripture tells us that we know a tree by the fruit that it bears. Okay, and so um, although it gives the appearance of being real and being truthful, the broad road is not. Okay, and so I wanted to just start that story to bring us straight into today's message that we're going to be encountering. In Matthew 24:4, you should say, the disciples asked Yahusha the Messiah, what is the sign of your coming and the end of this age? And answering, Yahusha said to them, take heed that no man deceives you. This was a final hour message from our series that we did, that we began 3 weeks ago. On last Shabbat, we talked about deception. Okay, take heed that no man deceive you. When they asked about what is a sign of your coming, how will we know that it's the end of the age? He first began with a warning. take heed that no man deceives you. So he was warning them that in the end times, there's going to be so much deception. So take heed, be careful, okay? Walk circumspectly and take heed that no man deceives you. Take heed means to see to it. So there's something that we have to do on our part to make sure that we're not being deceived. Okay, so the first sign of the end of the age is when at the time when he returns, there's going to be great deception going on, and we see this happening even to this day. So this was what we spoke about last Shabbat. Okay, and then we spoke about the first message in our final hour series. We spoke about that belt of truth, having your loins girded about with truth. And so we learned that gird means to press, okay? Something that is wrapped tightly around us. We want to make sure that the truth is girded around us, that it is wrapped tightly around us. To gird, we learn, means to press. It means to store something up in a safe place. We're also told in scriptures, Yahusha told his disciples to gird up the loins of your mind, to bind those things that are loose. So when we gird up our mind, we're not allowing any and everything to enter in. We're not allowing everything to enter into our hearts and into our mind, because our mind is our heart. So we have to have the truth firmly fixed, rooted and grounded, being established, having that truth as that belt, as that buckle that is tightly secured around our waist. When something is bound tight, it nothing can get in there because it's you don't have any loose clothing. So when something is bound, that you're prepared to go. And I showed a video during that the first series, gird your loins about with truth, having on that belt of truth. We showed a video on how in the ancient times they would gird up their loins if they had a task or things that they had to do, they had to run or work. They would tightly secure their clothing and make sure that there was nothing loose that would hinder them from being able to complete the task. Okay, and so that was the first week when we first spoke about that. Okay. And so if you missed those first two teachings, the very first one, gird your loins, gird about your loins with truth, and take heed that no man deceive you. Please go back and watch those two series. And so today's the third message in our final hour series is enter in through the narrow gate. This was a warning also, and it was a command to his disciples, to those who believe into him, to enter in through the narrow gate. Okay. And so it says, enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction. And I'm reading Matthew 7, verse 13 and 14. Enter in through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to life, and only a few finds it. So this is very clear that only a few will find it. So this is a location, and it's not only a physical location, but it's also a state of mind as well. And so Yahusha told his disciples, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction. And there are many that are going in through this wide and broad gate. But he says, straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to life, and only a few will find it. And so something that is narrow, because he says enter in through the narrow gate, that's straight and the narrow gate. And so anything that is let's talk about straight. Okay, that straight gate. anything that is straight, it is established. It's firm. It stands still. It's immovable. It stands up. Okay. It stands. Let me say this again. It stands. You ever had to take a stand for something and you were not going to the left or the right? We know that um our father Yah told his chosen ones, Yasharel, don't go to the left or go to the right. You must stand. You must stand still. You must be established. To be straight means to make firm, to be fixed, to uphold. Okay, so to uphold, it means to continue, to stand ready, or to be prepared. Okay, and then that narrow in context, when he says entering through the narrow gate, this is something that many people don't understand. And I pray by the end of this message that you understand what he means when he says entering through the narrow gate. It means trouble, it means suffer. It means tribulation. It means to be afflicted. It means there's going to be a pressing, as in pressing grapes, to press hard. The narrow way is very compressed. Let me say this again. The narrow way is very pressed. It is the difficult way. It is the way of hardship or crisis. This is what many people that are, in the churches, they're not being taught, and just in general, many of us do not understand, like when things are happening, many have this fairy tale that we're just gonna, skip all the way with roses and flowers, and then boom, we're in the kingdom. And that's just not how it is. In this walk, we're gonna have trials, we're gonna have tribulations, we're gonna be tested. We're gonna have to prove that we are worthy of being in the kingdom. We're gonna have difficulty, hardship. We're gonna suffer tribulation. We're going to be afflicted. These things are going to happen, and so this is the way. But we must, no matter what, stand firm, be set, established. The Apostle Shaul said, whether, I've been in need, I've had want, there have been good days, there have been bad days. He talks about the hardship he went through. He's been hungry, then he's been well fed. He said, but what will turn me away from the love of Yah? Okay, no matter what is going on, I am standing firm. I am upholding. I am going to continue. I'm going to stay ready and be prepared. No matter what difficulty. Because that wide way, it says wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction. That means spacious. That means ease. Okay, ease. Everything is easy. There's nothing, it's all inclusive. There's no challenge. You don't know, and I'll say this, you don't know the strength that you have until you have to go through it. You don't know if you really trust Yah until you put in a situation where you have to trust him. I'm going through that right now as we speak. Okay. I'm going through that right now as we speak. And so, according to Yahusha, and as we just read when he spoke about the gate that we're to enter in, according to Yahusha, there are two paths that man travel. There is a wide and there is a narrow path. But as believers and as followers of our Messiah, there's only one path that we get to travel. And this one path, which is the narrow path, is the only path that leads to everlasting life, that leads to everlasting salvation. And so, how narrow is this path? I wanted to put this diagram, this demonstration, this picture up here so that you can see how narrow it really is. This path is very narrow. Those who enter in through um, the narrow gate, they're very few. We just read it. He says that there are few that find it. There are few that find it. So you have to go seeking it. There are few, and there's only going to be a few that find it. Okay. And so, but that wide gate, While there are few that find the narrow gate, Yahusha said that those who enter through that broad and wide gate, there are many. And the reason why there are many on this road is because it represents the road that is traveled by the majority. Okay? Let me say this again. The reason why there's so many on this wide gate, because remember when I read, wide means easy, wide means all inclusive. That's all they're using a quote unquote term equity right now. Everything is about equitable, and you all of these things it's an agenda. The all inclusive, um everything is easy, and we can do what thou will, is everything is so when you look at the sheep on the left, it's all inclusive. Everything and everybody is allowed, no matter what your mind is, whether you walk in truth, whether you don't. Truth is not absolute, you know, and that is the wide road. That's the way that they think. That's their mindset. But those of us who walk on that narrow and that straight road, it's going to look like this, where you see this picture of this sheep that's by himself, that's oftentimes alone. Very few that are on this path. Truth is always narrow. Okay, let me say this again. Truth is always narrow. 1+1 is always going to be 2. Okay, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. 2+2 is always going to be 4. It's never going to be 6. It's never going to change. Okay, truth is absolute because it's fixed, because it's firm. And so something that is fixed and is firm is established, and therefore it will never change. It can never be shaken. Okay. But we have entered into an era where everyone is encouraged to be broad minded. You ever hear someone say, be open minded? They say, well, you should be open. That's the thing. Let's be open minded. I'm not open minded. And I can't remember the conversation of who I was speaking to, but I remember saying, I'm not open minded. I don't open my mind. That's that new age stuff. My mind is not open to allow any and everything to enter in. That's what that whole thing is about. The being open minded is broad minded. Okay, being open to any and everything is what many are teaching, and we see these practices or the likes of these practices in yoga and new age, where everything is allowed. Whatever you think, or whatever you think is right is right. It's because you get to choose what is true and is right. You don't does not what's the word I'm looking for? They do not it doesn't promote that I have a creator. Okay, there's no one that's greater than me, because I believe in myself. So whatever I believe is true. Okay, how if it feels good to me, then that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, and that is not the way or the mindset of uh that those who walk on the straight and uh the narrow road. Okay, that's just not the way. And so I wanted to speak for a moment about the benefits of walking on the straight and the narrow path. Okay, because there are benefits of walking on this straight and the narrow path. So anything that is straight uh, is narrow. It provides a direction. Let me say this again. Anything that is straight and narrow is not only right, but it's clear. There's no confusion. It's clearly defined. It provides direction. Okay. It provides direction. So I wanted to show you, I put these arrows here. And so these arrows, we see this narrow path, it looks wider than it really is, but because it's expanded on the screen, it looks wide. But this was very narrow, kind of like the one we just saw before. But this is a narrow path. And so when you think about these barriers that are on the side, anytime you have these barriers, it's like the word of Yah, okay, his commands are the pressures. They are what press and create the path. Okay. His commands are like these barriers that press us in and that create the path. And let me say this again, his command create the path because they are pressing you in. They're like the boundaries. And so we know that Psalms 119 verse 132 says, David said, I will run the way of thy commandments. Okay. When you have boundaries, when you have a path that is set, that is fixed, we know where to run the race that leads to salvation. We will know the way to run. He said, he didn't just say, I'm going to run, but I'm going to run the way because there is a way. Yahusha is the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through him. He says, I will run the way, but where? What way? The way of your commandments. Your commandments are like that boundary that press us in, that creates the path for us to run. Okay? And then something that we also know, a second benefit, because I'm just going to give you 3 quick benefits. I'm sure there are many more, but this is the second benefit. The second benefit is that the path is well lit. Okay, the path is lit. The way of the race is when we know that a path that is fixed, that is established, we know where to go. It has boundaries, it's set, it's straight to it, it's clear, it's defined. Okay, because if it's straight, it's clear. If you ever talk to someone and it seems like they just go all around, you're like, can you just make it clear? Make it straight and clear, make it plain. Okay, it's straight, it's clear, it's defined. And then the path, a second benefit is the path is well lit. So anything that is well lit, we are not walking in darkness. We can see where we're going. Psalms 119, verse 105, David said, thy word, your commands is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. So I know with these boundaries that are set in place, this path your word has created, I now know where I'm going because it's a lamp to my feet and it lights my path. So I know where I'm going. I'm not walking in darkness. Okay. And a third benefit, okay, because I said I was just going to give you 3, is the straight and narrow path is well established. So we're not walking on our own and we're not walking on an unfamiliar or a strange path that leads to a dead end. Have you ever been trying to walk and find your way, and then you were lost and because it wasn't clear? Or I've had like my GPS taking me all around and then I'm in the wrong direction, I don't know where I'm going, and then I get to the end and it's a dead road, or it's only a one way and I'm going the wrong way of the one way. I'm going in the opposite direction of the one way. And so his word, his commands, they're straight and they're narrow and the path is well defined. And so in Jeremiah, the prophet, the Father Yah told him to speak to the nation of Judah. This was a final warning to Judah, his chosen ones. And Jeremiah is saying to Judah, thus says Yah, stand by the way and then look, stand in the way. Look where you're at. Look where you're going. You're going the wrong way. And he says, and ask for the ancient past. Have you ever been going on a trip and you didn't know where you were going and you saw that you were going way out the way and you had to go and stop maybe at a gas station and stop and ask someone for directions so that you could get back on the correct path? This is what the Father Yah is telling the prophets Jeremiah to say to the house of Judah, look, stand by the way, stop, and look where you're at, and go and ask for directions. Where is the ancient path? Which is, he says, which is the good way. The ancient path is the good way. The straight and narrow road that Yahusha told us to stay on is the good way. And then he said, and then walk in it. Go and ask for directions. If you are new in this awakening and you're new, just to seeking out the Father, sometimes that's why he gives us overseers, pastors, those who will truly shepherd and feed his sheep. Like he told Peter, if you love me, go feed my sheep. Not some wolf, like we saw at the beginning, pretending to be the grandmother, and it was just a wolf. Okay. This is when you're if you're seeking a teacher or a ministry, because he gives us those in the fivefold ministry to edify and to build up and to bring it to the full maturity of the Yahusha. So we don't speak against them because they're necessary. But at the end of the day, his word has to be the barometer that we measure everything by. You always test the spirit to see if it's of Yah. You have that Berean mindset. You may listen to messages and teachings, but then you get behind them to see if what they're saying is so. And so we have been, called to ask for the ancient path. So when I first came into this truth 20 years ago, so I started 2004, when the Father God awakened me, I had to have a teacher to teach me, to put me on the correct path. And then I was able to go. But he says, ask for the ancient path, and which is the good way. And then he says, once you get directions, then you walk in it. So if I'm lost and I go stop at the gas station and ask for direction, they give me directions. Now I'm getting ready to drive on the correct path. He says, and then you will find rest. I'm in Jeremiah 6:16. He says, and then you will find rest for your souls. He says, but they said, we will not walk in it. Are you looking at this? Jeremiah 6:16. The house of Yehuda, Judah, they said, we're not going to walk in it. They told them, we are not, I don't care what y'all told you, we're not walking in that we don't want to walk that way. And that is how we ended up here in America. Okay, that is how we ended up on those transatlantic slave ship, because we refused to walk in the way. Okay, we refused to look where we were going. We didn't want to walk circumspectly. We wanted to explore the broad road. We wanted to be like the other nations, okay, that were around us. So we turned away from walking with Yah to go follow after other gods. Okay, and that is the reason why he said, look, this was the final warning before judgment. He sent the prophet Jeremiah in Jeremiah 6:16 to tell them they need to be considering their way. Stand by your way, stand still, and look where you're going. You're going in the wrong direction. Ask for the ancient path, ask to get back on the correct path, which is the good way. And then he says, and walk in it, and then you're going to find rest for your souls. Okay. And then when we read Isaiah 35:8, he tells us who will not stray on this path, who will not walk on the straight and narrow path. Isaiah 35:8 says, and there will be a highway called the way of holiness. And he says the unclean will not travel on it. Only those who walk in the way, only those who walk in the way, Yahusha is the way, will travel on the way of holiness. Even a fool won't even, have you ever walked on a road and you stumbled onto something? He says a fool will not even stumble on the right path. So only a fool will not walk on the way of holiness. Okay. And so since Yahusha commanded for us to enter in through the narrow gate, the first thing we need to do is to find out the purpose of a gate. Okay, and so what is a gate before we go into a purpose? According to the ancient Hebrew lexicon in the Bible, gate is spelled Dalet Lamed, It means back and forth. That's the action. Okay. So the action word of gate is back and forth. Okay. Being able to go back and forth. It's a door. And so a doorway is an entrance. It's a pathway that we go back and forth in. It says the pictograph dalet is a door, and the lamed is a picture of the staff and represents any rod. Combined, these pictures mean the door on the rod. The tent door was hung down as a curtain covering the entrance to the tent from the horizontal pole. The door was then moved to the side for going in and going out of the tent. It also means pour any object that dangles, such as a bucket that hangs. Okay, so it's a gate, it's an entry or pathway. Okay, it says that gate means to open. Okay, it's entering. It says door, an entrance or opening. So again, it's an opening, a place where you go in and out. So the purpose of a gate, let's go over the purpose of a gate. Purpose of a gate is to permit or to allow in or to allow into. It means to forbid or to keep out. So it can also not only allow or permit one to enter in or into, but it also can be used to forbid or to keep those out. And so that's why, like, before your mom leaves, they tell you to lock the door, because they're forbidding and they want to keep out anyone that would cause any harm or danger, just like in the story of the three little pigs. When he says, and they said, let me in, and they said, not by the hair of my chin, chin, chin. They were not going to let him in, right? So that the door that they had forbid and kept the wolf out. And notice how in all these childhood stories, the wolf is the one. Notice in the three little pigs, their adversary was a wolf. In the Little Red Riding Hood, the adversary was a wolf. If the cartoon Dora the Explorer, Swiper was a wolf, the sly fox that was always trying to kill, steal, and destroy. He was always trying to destroy something that Dora and Boots had, or he was trying to take something away, and that's what the enemy comes to steal, kill, and to destroy. Same thing. It's not a coincidence that these adversaries that are in these cartoons and childhood stories is a wolf. Okay. And the purpose of the gate is also to give access to whatever is on the other side of the gate. Okay. And so we want to have access to salvation. We want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. And in context, the blue letter Bible for gate in this in Matthew 7, verses 13 and 14 is a metaphor to assess or entrance into any state. So like I said earlier, it's a state. It's an entrance into any state of mind. So Yahusha said, as he said, I'm the bread of life, I'm the living water. He also said that I am the gate. So when he says enter in by or through the narrow gate, he's talking about entering into him. We did a message a little over a month ago about entering into Yahusha. We did it. It was entitled Into Yahusha. Go back and check that out. Okay. And so let's read John chapter 10, verses 7 and 8. And then Yahusha again said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, I am the gate of the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. Okay, so who is the gate? Who is he telling us to enter in by? He's telling us to enter in by himself. He is the gate. So those of us who are rejecting the Messiah, you rejected him, you are like the fool that Isaiah spoke of that will not go on the right path. You will not look at where you're going. And the same thing that happened before to our people is going to happen again. Nothing new is under the sun. Yahusha is the gate. It is not a coincidence. We have many Pharisees that are in this walk. And the same thing that they did to him, they're going to do to us today, if not even worse. Okay. A servant is not greater than his teacher. Okay. So John chapter 10, verses 7 through 16 read. I'm actually going to begin reading in verse 9. John chapter 10, verse 9 through 16. I am the gate. If anyone enters through me, he will have life and will go in and will go out. Okay, he is the gate, he is the door. Yahusha is the door. He is the veil in the tabernacle. He was the veil that separated the holy place from the Holy of Holies, which is where the very presence of Yah is. Okay. He is the way. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me. I am the gate. I am the door. If anyone enters through me, if you go in and out through me, okay, he will have life and will go in and will go out and will find pasture. He says the thief does not come except that he may steal, kill, and destroy. He said, I come that they may have life and may have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life on behalf of the sheep. But the hireling, not even being the shepherd, who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and forsakes the sheep and flees. The wolf seizes them and scatters the sheep, but the hireling flees because he is a hireling, and there he does not care. He does not care concerning the sheep. So the hireling does not care. We have many wolves, okay, that are in sheep clothing, that are in many of these churches, that are pretending that they're sheep, but they're not. And what is so sad, and I'll use one pastor, Jamal, they call him a pastor, Jamal Bryant. Okay. Remember, the enemy, the scripture says, has his pastors masquerading as angel of light. He has his, and there are many that are in there. He's encouraging all his congregation to have abortions. They're selling weed out of the church. It's all kind of foolishness. I fear for him. He needs prayer. And these people are sitting there going every week because their carnal flesh is being excited. What he preaches and what he teaches feeds their flesh. And no flesh will see, yeah, no flesh. Without holiness, you will not see him. He has commanded that we be sober minded. But that is not what he's teaching. Okay, he's not teaching that they be sober minded. He's teaching that they can do whatever they want. Oh, if you having if you had sex and you made a mistake, then go ahead. God don't care. He don't want you to be stuck with like stuck. Continuing verse 14. I am the good shepherd, and I know those that are mine, and I am known by the ones that are mine. Even as the Father knows me, I also know the Father. I lay down my life for the sheep. And also, he says, I have other sheep, those who were not from the sheepfold. So, those he's talking about, the other sheep that he has that's not from the sheepfold, he's speaking of the house of Yasharel. Okay, they're the two houses being reunited and coming back. So he's talking about the lost sheep that he was sent, because he says, I was sent not except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Those are what they refer to as the 10 lost tribes. He's talking about the northern kingdom, okay, which is Ephraim or Israel. These are the all of the disciples were from the southern kingdom, okay? And because he divorced the northern kingdom, he did not divorce the southern kingdom. So those that are lost, that are of this, that he have other sheep that he have that are not from the sheepfold, that's who he's speaking to, okay? And many people in the church probably don't have this understanding, okay? He says in verse 16, I also have other sheep, those who were not from the sheepfold. Also them it is necessary for me to bring them in, and they will hear my voice, and all the flock will become one, and there will be one shepherd. So walking the narrow walk. So we have about 7 or 8 scriptures that we're going to read today before I end today's message about this narrow walk, because we need to know. He says, enter in through the narrow gate. And so we need to know, what is the narrow gate? What is the straight and narrow gate? Because he says there are few that find it. Because when we're walking on that straight way, it's a way that's already fixed, it's established, and we continue on it. We do not deviate from it. When you look that up in context, it means to continue and to uphold it. These are what we're going to be reading. Many people are not going to want to continue. They're not going to want to uphold it. And so let's talk about walking the narrow way. Matthew chapter 10, verses 16 through 40. Behold, this is Yahusha. He's speaking to his disciples. Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. But beware of men. Let me say this again. But beware of men, for they will deliver you to the house of judgment, and they will scourge you in their assembly. So we're going to be judged because of Yahusha, because of his namesake, because we are standing, because we are established, and we will not move. We will uphold it. What did the disciples say? They told him to stop preaching in the name. He said, we rather obey Yah than men. We will not. They were excited and joyfully running out, being able to be persecuted for his name's sake. Okay. But beware of men, Yahusha said. He says, for they will deliver you to the house of judgment, and they will scourge you in their assemblies. Also, you will be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony to them and the Gentiles. Verse 19. But when they deliver you up, do not be anxious or how on how or what you should say, for it will be given to you in that hour on what you say. So when they accuse you, because they're going to accuse you, just like the Pharisees and those in Yahushua's time, they were accusing him of wrongdoing, and he was delivered up. He says they're going to deliver you up too. He says, but don't be anxious. When they lock you up in jail, when they bring you before the kings and governors for my name's sake, he says, don't be anxious on how or what you should say. Don't say like, oh, what am I going to say? Oh, what? He says in that hour, at the appointed time, the Ruach, the set apart spirit, will tell you what you should say. Verse 20, for you are not the one speaking. Let me say this again. You are not the one speaking. Let me say this again. You are not the one speaking. It is the Father, the Spirit of the Father, the Ruach HaKodesh that is in you, that is speaking. Okay? His Ruach will tell you what to say. You don't have to worry about that. Okay? Yahusha said the same thing. My words are not my word. Whatever I hear the Father say, well, that's what I say. Whatever he is in the Father, and the Father is in him. Whatever he heard his Father say, that's what he said. That's what our people do not understand. Whatever he heard his Father say, he said. My words, he said, are not my own. I can do nothing on myself. Whatever I see, he said, that's what I do. Whatever I hear, that's what I say. There's not going to be any difference with us, because that same spirit that's in him is in us. The Father is in us. His Ruach, his spirit is in us, speaking through us. Okay? He says, but in verse 21, but brother will betray brother to death, and the father his child, and children will rise up against parents and will put them to death. So these are things that we need to know is going to be happening. When you walk on this narrow path, even he said your enemies will be those of your own household, your family members who think that you're in a cult or crazy because you're walking the way. And you won't go to the left or the right. You won't be open-minded. You won't walk that broad path where the majority are. They're going to say, oh, I mean, what do you think they probably thought of Noah? Only 8 people? Can you imagine? Think of the world that we're in now. Can you imagine only you and your family, the only ones? At some point, you will be wondering, shoot, am I wrong? Because everybody else. But hey, he did not move to the left or the right. He remained faithful, and he and his family were saved. And so we're going to see family members betray one another. Your family members are going to offer you up. They're going to betray you just like Judas betrayed Yahusha for 30 pieces of silver. And the children are going to be rising up against their parents and putting them to death. Verse 22. And you will be hated by all on account of my name, but the one enduring until the end shall be saved. But when they persecute you in this city, he says, flee to another. For truly I say to you, in no way will you have finished all the cities of the house of Yasharel until the Son of Man will come. So he says you will be hated. Walking on this narrow path, all the scriptures that we're reading today is for you to prepare yourself for what is going to happen, and do not count it as a strange thing. You need to know, what does walking on the narrow path look like? You will be hated by all on account of my name. When you stand for truth and you will not budge, you're not going to be all inclusive. Hey, you're going to be hated because of your beliefs. When you don't stand for abortion, when you don't stand for marriage outside of what the Father Yah has said marriage is, you're going to be hated. He says, but the one enduring until the end shall be saved. This is the good news. You must endure it to the end to be saved. But when they persecute you in this city, what did he say? When they give you flowers in this city? No, he said, when they persecute you in this city, you will be persecuted. Flee to another, for truly I say to you, in no way will you have finished all the cities of the house of Yasharel until the Son of Man will come. He says, a disciple is not above the teacher, nor a slave above his master. So whatever, if you're being taught, and he says, follow me, whatever he went through, you're going to go through. Whatever happened to him is going to happen to us, because he told us, pick up your stake, pick up that torture stake and follow me. Verse 25, it is not enough for the disciple to become as his teacher. Let me say this again. It is not enough for the disciple to become as his teacher and the slave as his master. If they called the master of the house Beelzebub, he said, how much more those of his household? If Yahusha is being called Beelzebub, what you think they're going to call us? He's greater than we are. Verse 26, therefore you should not fear them. What did he say? Do not fear them, for nothing is covered which will not be uncovered, and hidden which shall not be made known. Verse 27, what I say to you in the darkness, he says, speak it in the light. Do not be afraid. What I say to you in the dark, speak in the light. And what you hear in your ear, proclaim it to the housetop. Whatever the Ruach, the Spirit, is saying to you, proclaim it. Shout it on the rooftop. Don't be afraid. Verse 28, and do not fear the ones killing the body, because they're going to kill you. Some of us will be killed. Okay? He says, do not fear the one that's killing your body. He says, but not being able to kill the soul. Don't be afraid of the one that has the power to kill your body, this fleshly body that is perishing. He says, but rather you fear the one, Yah, the Father, and Yahusha, who is the judge, who is able to destroy both the soul and the body in Gehenna. Are not 2 sparrows sold for an assyrian? Yet not one of them shall fall to the ground without your Father, but even the hairs of your head are all numbered. He knows the very numbers of hairs that are on our head. So do not fear. He said, you're better than a sparrow. Who is man that he is mindful of us? We were created in his image. We're better than sparrows. He says, do not fear. Verse 32, then everyone who shall confess me before men, I will also confess him before my Father in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, I also will deny him before my Father in heaven. Do not think that I came to bring peace on the earth. I do not come to bring peace, but a sword. Okay, he said, I did not come to bring peace. If you are afraid to confess him before men, he said he will not confess you before his Father in heaven. He's gonna act like he don't know you. But whoever denies me before men, if you deny him, if you're not afraid to confess him, when they asked Peter, or weren't you the one that was with him? He said, oh, I don't know him. That's what he said before the cock strikes 3 times, crows 3 times. You're going to deny me. Peter didn't even realize that. He did not even realize that he was going to deny him. Okay. And he asked him 3 times. Because this was symbolic of the type of death that he was going to face, because he was actually crucified and he didn't count himself worthy to be crucified upright. So I believe the scripture says he wanted to do it hung upside down. Okay. But he says, whoever denies me before men, I also will deny him before my Father in heaven. Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. So there's going to be division. What's dividing us? walking the straight and narrow walk. He said, I came to divide a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a bride against her mother-in-law. This is not Yahusha saying, I'm just coming to start trouble and I want to separate family members. No, you will soon learn that your family are those who are doing the will of the Father. Your family, the blood family, that's not your real family. We got to change our whole mindset. Yes, we love our family. We provide for our family. We care for our family. But there are times when you're going to have to separate from your family, especially if your family is causing you to stray off the straight and narrow path, or they are influencing you or those in your household in a way that is displeasing to the Father. He don't think that Father will not tell you to separate from your father or your mother. He told Abraham, come out from among your father. He told him to leave him. He said, I'm going to start a new nation. Come out from him. Come out from under him. Okay, so he said in verse 35, Matthew 10, verse 35, I came to divide a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a bride against her mother-in-law. He says a man's enemies will be those of his own household. So do not count it strange that many of you are not close with your very own brother, your very own sister, your very own mother, your father, your cousins. Don't count it strange. It is not happening by chance. Okay, you're walking that, if you're truly walking that narrow path and you're not wavering and being a hypocrite, there's going to be a sword that comes. Verse 37, the one loving father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And the one loving son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. If you love your mother or your father more, or your son or your daughter, your children, more than you love the Father, you're willing to not walk this straight and narrow path. You're afraid of your family because they're going to cut you off and don't want anything. If you love them more than him, he said, you're not worthy of me. When Yahusha told the man to come follow me, he said, oh, I got to go see about my father. He said, let the dead bury the dead. Follow me. Do not delay. Verse 38, and whoever does not take up his staff and follow after me is not worthy of me. If you're not willing to take up your staff, you're not willing to learn, you're not willing to follow him, you're not worthy of him. If you're going to allow your family members, friends, your loved ones to stop you from following after him, that shows you love them more than him and you're not worthy of him. The one saving his life shall lose it, and the one losing his life on account of me shall find it. So those who are willing to try to save their life, you afraid because they say they gonna kill you. If you follow Yahusha and you willing to act like you don't know him so they don't behead you, you're gonna lose your life. Okay, because when you die, your soul goes to a place. He says the one receiving you receives me, and the one receiving me receives him who sent me. Okay, I want to read a precept. Matthew 19 and 29 reads, and everyone who has given up houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or children or property for my name's sake, for my sake, if you've given up anything, you let go of things that he told you to let go. You stopped doing things he told you to stop doing. You separated from family members, friends, you left jobs, you did anything that you did for his name's sake. He said you will receive 100 times as much in return, and you will inherit eternal life. Our Father Yah is faithful. Okay, when you read Matthew chapter 12, we're still in John, but I just wanted to read these couple precepts. When we read Matthew chapter 12, verse 46 through 50, it reads, but while he was yet speaking to the crowds, this was Yahusha, he was speaking to the crowds, and someone said, behold, yes, your mother and your brothers, they're standing outside seeking to speak with you. And then you know what he said? Verse 47. And then one said to him, behold, your mother and your brothers, they're outside. They're seeking to speak with you. But Yahusha answering, he said to the one speaking to him, who is my mother? Who are my brothers? And then Yahusha stretched his hands out to his disciples. And he said, behold, my mother and my brothers. Here's my mother and here are my brothers. He said, whoever does the will of my Father in heaven, this one is my brother and my sister and my mother. So Yahusha is basically establishing your family. That you have a physical earthly family, but your true family will be those who are doing the will of the Father in heaven. This is your real family. Okay, those who are on the narrow road, this is your true family. Those who are doing the will of the Father in heaven. And behold, coming near, one said to him, Good teacher, what good thing shall I do that I may inherit eternal life? And he said to him, Why do you call me good? No one is good except Yah. But if you desire to enter into life, keep the commandments. He said to him, Which? And Yahusha said, You shall not murder, you shall not commit murder, nor commit adultery, nor steal, nor give false witness, honoring your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And then a young man said to him, All these things I have kept from my youth. So what do I still lack? So he said, Look, I've done that. I haven't committed murder. I don't commit adultery. I don't steal. I don't bear false witness. I honor my father and my mother. I love my neighbors myself. So I said, I don't lack anything. So, what do I still lack at this point? I got that. I haven't done any of these things. And then Yahusha told him in verse 21, if you desire to be perfect, go sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And he says, and come, follow me. But upon hearing the word, pay attention to this. He didn't have a problem with the other things. He said, I'm not breaking any of these commandments. Then Yahusha said, if you desire to be perfect, go sell all your possessions, everything you own, go and sell it. Everything that you consider to be precious and valuable to you, go sell it and give it to the poor. And then you will have treasure in heaven. And then he says, come and follow me. But upon hearing the word, the man being grieved, this man was grieved. He was grieved at the thought, this rich man, that he had to give away all of his possessions. And it says what he did. He went away. It says because he had many possessions. Yahusha looked at his disciples. He said, Are you going to leave me too? Are you going to leave me too? He went away. This is the reality of what it means to walk on a narrow walk, being willing to give it all up. Verse 23, and Yahusha said to his disciples, Truly I say to you, that a rich man will with great difficulty enter into the kingdom of heaven. He said a rich man with great difficulty will enter into the kingdom of heaven. It is going to be difficult for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. He said, I say to you, it is easy for a rope to pass through a needle's eye than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of Yah. And his disciples were exceedingly astonished when they heard this, saying, Who then is able to gain eternal life? And having looked at them, Yahusha said to them, With men this is impossible, but with Yah all things are possible. Then answering, Peter said to him, Behold, we have left all things and followed you. What indeed will we have? Verse 28, and Yahusha said to them, Truly I say to you, you who have followed me in this world, let me say this again, you who have followed me in this world, not you who tried to follow me once you got to the gate, not you who said, God knows my heart. You who follow me in this world that you're living in right now, when the Son of Man sits on the throne of his glory, you also will sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Yasharel. And everyone who have left houses or brothers or sisters or your father or your mother, your wife, your children, or left lands, because he told Abraham to leave your land, leave, and Abraham obeyed. Because of his obedience, we are here today. He left the land because Yah told him to. He said, for the sake of my name, if you do all this for me, you shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. But many who are first will be last, and the last will be first. John chapter 12, verses 25 through 27. Whoever loves his soul will destroy it. Let me say this again. Whoever loves his soul will destroy it, and whoever hates his soul in this world will keep it to eternal life. Okay, so he's not talking about hating yourself, but he's talking about you. If you love your soul, where you're trying to save it in this world, to gain this world, you will lose it. Okay. Verse 26, if anyone serves me, let him follow me. Let me say this again. If anyone serves me, Yahusha said, let him follow me. And where I am, there my servant will also be. And if anyone serves me, the Father will honor him, and my soul is troubled. What may I say? Father, save me out of this hour. He said, no, rather it's because of this because of this I've come for this hour. So Yahusha, he came to save that which was lost. He said, shall I ask him to save me out of this hour? He said, no, it's lights, camera, action. That's what time it is right now for us. It's light, camera, action. This is the hour. When he prayed to him, he didn't pray that he save us. He prayed and take us out of the world. He prayed that we will be kept from the evil one. This time is here. The hour is now. That's why the title of this series is called the Final Hour Series. The hour is now. What are we going to say? Father, save me out of this hour. I don't want to do this. I don't want to endure anymore. I can't do this. He said, but rather because of this, I came to this hour. John chapter 16, verses 18 through 22. If the world hates you, know that it has hated me before you. If you were of the world would love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, because of this, the world hates you. Remember the word, he says, remember the word which I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they keep my word, they will also keep yours. But all these things they will do to you on account of my name. So he's letting them know, if the world hated me, they're going to hate you if you're following me, because I'm not of the world. So if you're following me, you're not of the world, and that's why they're going to hate you. So when someone is hating, have you had people just hate you for no reason? I've have had that title for so many reasons. And I used to be like, why is everyone, no, it's not. It's because most of the time with me, it was jealousy, especially in the workplace. But we be prepared to be hated. If everyone loves you, you're on the wrong path. Do what he told Isaiah to tell Judah, the house of Judah. Look at the road that you want. And ask for directions, and then walk in the right path, the ancient path. He says, remember the word which I said to you in verse 20. A servant is not greater than his master. He says, remember that. So if the master was hated and the master was persecuted and we're not greater than him, he says, if they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they kept my word, they will also keep yours. But all these things they will do to you on account of my name, because they do not know the one who sent me. So they'll be doing these things, persecuting you, thinking they're doing the will of the Father, but they're not. That's what the Apostle Shaul Paul was doing before he met Yahusha met him on the road of Damascus. Okay. Verse 22. He said, but if I had not come and had not spoken to them, they would not have had no sin. But now they do not have a sacrifice upon their sin. Okay. He's already come. There remains no more sacrifice. If he had not come, then you could say, well, there's none. But he's come. He showed us the way. So there remains no more sacrifice. John chapter 17, verses 9 through 24. I pray concerning them. I do not pray concerning the world, but concerning the ones whom you gave to me, because they are yours, and all my things are yours, and yours are mine. So the Yahusha is praying for those who are walking on this narrow path. He's not talking about the ones on the broad path. He says, I pray concerning them, those who are walking on the straight and narrow path. I do not pray concerning the world. I'm not praying concerning those who are on the broad path. Okay? But I pray concerning the ones whom you gave to me, because they are yours. And all my things are yours, and yours are mine, and I have been glorified in them. And no longer am I in the world, yet these are in the world. So he's back with his Father. He said, I'm not in the world, but they are in the world still. He said, I come to you, Holy Father. Keep them in your name, those whom you gave to me, that they may be echad, they may be one, they may be united as we are, as we are echad, as we are one. Why he says, while I was with them in the world, he says, I kept them in your name. I guarded those whom you gave to me, and not one of them was lost, except the son of perdition, that the scriptures might be fulfilled. And now I come to you, and I speak these things in the world, that they may have my joy being fulfilled in them. This was the prayer that he prayed. We need to be praying this for our brethren, those of us who are striving to walk on the straight and narrow road. Father, yeah, keep my brother, keep my sister in your name. Those whom you gave to your son, Yahusha, keep them so that they and we may all be akkad as you and the Father are akkad. Keep them, Father, in your name, because there's mercy in his name. There is grace in his name. There is slow to anger in his name. There is love in his name. He is abounding in steadfast love. There is favor in his name. There's truth and goodness in his name. Forgiveness of iniquity, sin, and transgression. Pray, connect. There's correction in his name. Okay? Verse 14, he said, I have given them your word, and the world hated them. I've given them your word. Okay? The word that they have been commanded to run. And the world hated them because they are not of the world, as I am not of the world. Those who are walking on the straight and narrow path, we're not of the world. Those who are of the world are on that broad path where the majority are. In verse 15, he says, I do not pray that you take them out of the world. Let me say this again. I do not pray that you take them out of the world. One more again. I do not pray that you take them out of the world. So his prayer to the Father was not that we be taken out of this world, that people teach in the church, oh, we're not going to have any suffering. He's going to come and rapture us out of here. The rapture is a false doctrine. He said that you are going to suffer. He told us that. If they persecuted him, he said, you're going to be persecuted. They're going to scourge you. They're going to judge you. We're going to be beheaded. Those who were crying out to the Father in heaven, when are you going to judge them? Those who have beheaded us. He says, wait until the rest of your brethren, those who are going to be killed. He said, there's more that's going to be killed and beheaded. These were those who were crying out, blood crying out. They were beheaded. You have more brethren that's going to suffer. This is not a walk. Like I say, this is not a punk walk. You must endure to the end to be saved. This is not about I got baptized when I was 12 and that's it. No, you must remain on the straight and narrow path. You must continue, because only those that endure to the end shall be saved. This is the good news. He said that shall be preached about the forgiveness, the confession of sins, the repentance, so that you might be saved, the remission of your sins. Repent, for the kingdom of Yah is at hand. He says, I do not pray that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from evil. From the evil and from the evil one. So he prayed not that we be taken out or removed out of the world, or that he will remove us from trial, tribulation, affliction, persecution, even death. That's why he said, don't fear them who can kill the body, but fear the one who can kill both your body and your soul. He didn't pray that we be taken out of the world to escape affliction, persecution. He says, but keep them from the evil one. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. He says, sanctify them in your truth. Your word is truth. So to sanctify is to set something special apart. Yahusha is the way, the truth, and the life. He says, your word is truth. Yahusha is the living word of the Father. He says, and that's why he says, gird up your loins about with truth. Gird your loins up with truth. Have your loins of your mind guarded about with truth. The commandments creates the path for truth for us to walk on, and we're not walking in darkness because it lights our path. It's a lamp to our feet, so we're not walking in darkness. We know where we're going. Those who are on the broad world, that's why they're just sheep all together, running into each other. They have no clue. Have you ever seen someone walking like a rat on a wheel, going fast, thinking they're going somewhere, and they're still in the same spot? He says in verse 18, as you have sent me into the world, I have also sent them into the world. Did he say I've taken them out and then I'm gonna put them in a safe place so they can escape? No, he says I have sent them into the world. We are sheep being sent into the world. We're sheep that's being sent into the world that's full of ravenous wolves that lie in wait like the wolf was waiting on Little Red Riding Hood to deceive us. Just like when Eve, the serpent was waiting for his chance. Okay. Verse 19, and I fear for their sake. I sanctify myself so that they may also be sanctified by truth. So truth is what sanctifies you. He says, I do not pray concerning these only, but also concerning those who believe in me through their word, that all may be one as you are in me, Father, and I in you, and that they also may be one in us, and that the world may believe that you sent me. So he is in the Father, the Fathers are in him, and he wants us to be one with them. Acts chapter 14, verses 21 and 22. After preaching the good news in that city and making many disciples, Paul and Barnabas returned to Lystra, Iconium, and Antioch of Pisidia, strengthening the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith. They're strongly urging them to continue in the faith, okay? That we must through what? Much tribulation, meaning many hardships. Okay, remember what we learned earlier. The straight and narrow road is a road that's you're going to suffer tribulation, affliction. It means to press hard. It's a compressed way. That's what the commands do. That's why I had those arrows there. It compresses the way and creates the path. Okay, it is a path of difficulty and hardship. In context, this is what this means. Continue, endure to the end that you might be saved, that we must through much. They let them know, look, you got to continue no matter how difficult. They strengthen them, but they're telling them, don't stop, don't give up, because it is through much tribulation, many hardships, that we will enter into the kingdom of Yah. Why are pastors not teaching this? Why? We're teaching this so that you will know. This is what Yahusha said concerning Paul when he met him on the road to Damascus, because he was killing all of those who were caught the way. Acts chapter 9, verse 16, he said, I will show him, meaning I will show Paul, he was Saul, and how much he will suffer for my name, because he changed it. He said, I'm going to show him how much he's going to have to suffer for my name. He didn't say, oh, as soon as you believe in me and accept me as your savior, then life's going to be roses and cherries and you're not going to go through anything. Sometimes when you're going through things, just like Job's friends were rebuked because they say, oh, you must have did something wrong. Oh, they were giving him bad counsel, because that wasn't it. He was suffering because it was the will of the Father. Okay. And so I want to play this video. And this is indicative of what we're going to have to do and what we were just reading as far as continuing. And this is very familiar. We all read the story, but I actually found this video. And so I found this and I said, wow, this was like literally what we've read about the story of the tortoise and the hare, where the tortoise is going slow, but he's remaining steady. He's continuing to endure. The rabbit is lollygagging, taking time off, and he loses the race. And so Philippians 3:14 says, I press toward the mark for the high calling of Yah and Yahusha Messiah. And Matthew 24:13 says, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. And so while I was going over my notes for this teaching, I heard in my Ruach, and this is what I heard in my Ruach, the beautiful, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it. This is what I heard the Ruach saying. The beautiful thing about this race is that, and it's talking about this race of salvation, this race of us being on this narrow, the straight and narrow road. I heard the Ruach say the beautiful thing about this race is that it's not limited to one winner. Normally, when you have a race, only one obtains the prize. But the Ruach says the beautiful thing about this race is that it's not limited to one winner. All who endure and finish will be rewarded and obtain the prize of salvation. And so the race begins even before the womb. And then we have to finish. We have to finish it. And so it tells us in Ecclesiastes that the race is not given to the swift and the battle is not to those who are strong. So only those who are wise, who listen, who are willing to gain instruction and discern wise counsel will finish the race. And so the suffering, no matter how difficult things get, the suffering that we are experiencing in this present world is nothing compared to the glory of what will be revealed to us, the glory of the reward of what we will have if we endure to the end to be saved. So I wanted to just play this video because I just saw that I actually read and I came across this. The Ruach is just so special how you do things. Literally, I wasn't looking for it. I saw this in my news feed and I said, oh yes, I have to put this on here. And so we're getting towards the end now because I'll be bringing my sister in a moment. But literally what this whole thing of walking this narrow walk and why I presented all those scriptures is that we have to count the cost of what it is going to cost for us to follow the Messiah. Luke chapter 14, verses 26 through 30 reads, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and his mother and his wife and the children and his brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life. If you don't even hate your own life, because we have to kill this flesh, it says he cannot be my disciple. So what does that mean, hating your own life? That means you're not trying to save your life. If it means betraying the Messiah, betraying the Father God, if it means stepping onto that broad road, if you love your life more than you love following the Messiah, more than you do following his word, you're not worthy. He says, let me read this again. Luke 14:26. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even the one not even hating his own life, he cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry his stake and follow me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether you have enough to complete it? No one is going to start something and then, like, I got a project and I'm going to start it, but I got to sit down and count the costs. I got to look at the budget, see how much money I have to see if I got enough to complete it. He says, otherwise, when he has laid the foundation, he don't have enough to finish. No one's going to start a house and building a foundation and then you don't have enough to pay for all the materials. You don't have enough to pay the builders. When people build buildings and things of that sort, I watched a beautiful building being built, a beautiful apartment complex being built towards my home. And I remember when it was nothing but dirt and dust, and I saw them laying the foundation. What if they laid the foundation and then they say, well, we don't have enough to finish? Do you think them workers get ready to sit there and build a whole apartment complex and you hadn't counted the cost to see if you had enough in your budget? This is what we need to do right now. As you listen to the sound of my voice, count the cost of what it is going to take to follow him. Are you ready to die, if that's what it comes down to? Are you willing to be hated? Are you willing to suffer much tribulation? Because that is what is going to happen to many. Verse 29 says, otherwise, when he has finished, or when he has laid a foundation, he is not able to finish. all who see it, they will begin to mock him. So they'll start laughing at you. Oh, you started this house, you didn't even have enough. All you did, you got a slab of concrete there, and that's it. He said they're gonna mock you. And so those of us who start this walk, and you tell people, and you openly proclaim that you're walking on a narrow walk. You openly proclaim to be a follower of Yahusha, and that you are saved. And then they see you at the club. And then they see you getting drunk. And then they see you fornicating. And they see you lying and stealing. They see you doing things that the people in the world are doing. They're gonna mock you, because they're gonna be like, oh, you're not walking on the straight and narrow road, because you're off and exploring the broad road. They're gonna mock you, saying this man could not finish what he started to build. You have to finish the race. You have to finish. It's not about who starts, it's about who finishes. Many of us on this walk, we're starting the race at different times. But the main thing is you remain steadfast, that you continue, that you stay on the same path, this constricted path, this path that we know is constricted, this path that is established, doesn't go to the left or to the right. This is difficult. We stay on it, and we don't deviate from it. No matter what is going to happen, we're willing to suffer that, as long as we obtain the prize. And as Ruach said, the beautiful thing about this walk is that it's not just one. It's not just one. This is a path that we're all on, that if you endure to the end, you will be saved. That's a beautiful thing about this race. This is not just open to one person. There's not going to just be one winner, but all who finish it. We must finish. When Yahusha completed his work, he said it is finished. We have to endure to the end to be saved. We don't have to worry about, and so many times we in this walk and we trying to look at what everybody else doing. Yah has each of us given us each different gifts. Some have more than others, but nonetheless, we all have been given talents. We've been given gifts, and we all have things that we have to do and tasks to complete before he comes back. And if you don't, he's calling you the lazy servant. We have things. No one could be sitting here just sitting up, like listening to me and saying that's all that Yah has for me. And that's not true. If you think that is not true, we all have been given gifts, and to use via the Ruach to edify and to build up, and to come to bring the body into full maturity and full knowledge of who Yahusha is. And so this race, each of us are on this race, and we're continuing. While our master is away, we're not delaying and saying he's not coming back. We're not mistreating our brother, beating the slaves like we saw in the example of the parable. We're doing what he told us to do. And then we're also being mindful that there's a wolf, that there's distraction. There's people who are, while we on that path, there's going to be people on the left and the right trying to lure us with their finger. Come on this way. Come on to the other side. They're trying to get you to get off the path so that you don't finish. If somebody has already finished the race thousands of years ago, the disciples have finished the race. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to get there, that I'm not going to finish. We're down the road years and centuries, thousands of years down the road, but each of us are on the road, and we're on different places on this path. But nonetheless, if we all endure to the end, to our very last breath, we will obtain the prize. But we have to endure, and that's what the Ruach said. The beautiful thing about this race is that it's not only limited to one winner. All who endure and finish will be rewarded and obtain the prize of salvation. That's what the Ruach told me. And so we have to count the cost. There will be many who will be sad, like the man on the left on the wide broad road. That will be sad, like the man who he didn't want to give his money up, so he went away. He walked away from the Messiah. He did not follow him because he was sad and grieved that he had to give away his possessions, his earthly possessions. We're told not to even store them up. What thieves can come and steal. Where your treasure is, where your heart is. We have to be like little children. Remember, he said, unless you be like a child, you will not enter into the kingdom. We have to be like little children, willing to give it up, willing to give up all our possessions and not counting it anything so that we may gain Yahusha. That narrow, he said, enter in through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate. Let me say it again. Wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction. There are many who enter in through it. But straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to life, and there are few who find it. There will be very few who will enter in to that narrow gate. Very few people will enter in. And so just briefly recounting what we spoke about yesterday before I bring my sis in. Again, the Bible, basic instructions before Yahusha left the earth. There were basic instructions that he left his disciples before he left the earth. And this was what we spoke about on last Shabbat. Okay, follow me. These were the things that he said. And these are these three principles that the Lord gave me to help us, to prevent us from being deceived. I was trying to remember, to prevent us from being deceived. These were the three things that the Lord gave me to give to his people. Follow me. Then when you follow me, learn of me and remain in me. So let's go back to follow me quickly. Follow me. That means copy him. Copy him. Copy his ways. What did he do? What did he speak? Do the things that he did. Speak the things that he spoke. We see children all the time mimicking their parents. Okay, they want to do what their parents are doing. They follow their children, love to follow their parents around the house. If the parent is leaving and running an errand, going to the store, they want to get in the car with them. They cry when their parents leave because they want to go. Children are constantly following. Little girls are putting on their mom's shoes and putting on their pearls or putting on their clothes, or the son is in the mirror watching his father shave or watching him put on, comb his. They're trying to mimic him. So following him is doing what he did, speaking the things that he spoke. Okay. Reading his word, following his ways, practicing his ways. Okay. Yahusha said he followed his father. He said, my ways are not my ways. He said, my ways are not my own. Okay. He said, I can do what? Nothing of myself. He acknowledged that his father was greater than him. He said, my words are not my own. He said, I can do nothing of myself. He said, whatever I see my father do, he says, that what I do. He says, whatever I hear my father say, that's what I say. So he acknowledged that his words were not his own. Whatever he heard his father say, that's what he said. Whatever he saw his father doing, he said, that's what he did. He was following his father. So we're likewise to follow him and do what he's doing. Because when we follow him, we are following the Father, because they are one. And that's what makes us one. We are one by the Spirit. That's what makes the Father and the Son one. Not one person, because Yah is not Yahusha and Yahusha is not Yah, but one, meaning one in purpose, likeness, mindset. We're one with them as well, but we're not Yah and we're not Yahusha, but they want us to be one with them. What makes us all one is by the Spirit. Okay, the Ruach. So he said, follow me and learn of me. Now that you know me, you read my word, you're following my ways, you're practicing my ways, you're doing what I did, you're saying what I said. Now learn of me. Okay, studying his word. Okay, you studying his word so that you can know him, so that you can understand his will, so that you can come to full maturity of him. You're learning his ways. You're learning his likes, his dislikes, what's pleasing, what's not pleasing. Okay, you're finding out what he requires. This is what we're doing when we're studying the word. We want to, you can't follow someone that you don't learn. First, follow me. Get on the path. And then now that you're on this path, I need you to learn of me so that you can learn how to continue. You know, as I began to fellowship with Yahusha, he's been just shaping me, and he's been continuing to mold me, and that's what he's going to continue to do with all of us. And so when we learn of him, just like if you learn of anyone, you learn their likes. When you have your husband or your wife or your children, your family members, you know them. You know your husband or your wife's likes, their dislikes. You know what pleases them, what displeases them. You know what their favorite foods are. You know what they're allergic to. You know what turns them off. All of those kinds of things. When you know someone, it's because you have learned them. Okay. And then he says, remain in me. So follow me. First, follow me. Copy me, do what I did, follow me, go the way that I go, and then learn of me. Okay. Find out what I require, and then remain in me. Now that you know what I require, now that you're following me, and now you know me. Okay, you know what I require, you know my ways. Now, and that means you're in covenant. Now I need you to remain in me. Okay. Because if you don't remain in him, you just have knowledge. Let me say this again. If you don't remain in him, you just have head knowledge. There are a lot of people in this awakening. Okay. They have head knowledge, but they are without the ruach. They are without the spirit. They have no relationship with him. Okay. If you don't have a relationship with him, because I can say, oh, I know him, I got a relationship, and then you're not following him. You don't know what it is he required. You don't know any. Then how can you remain in something that you have no knowledge of? Okay. And so remaining in him means to continue. That means to abide. It's a relationship. When we understand this covenant is about relationship. Okay. When you learn about a person, have you ever had someone new you met, whether someone new you were trying to see if this was a person you were going to date or marry, or someone new on the job and you wanted to see if this was a person you would befriend? You first have to learn about the person. And then when you learn about a person, have you ever met someone and you thought that you wanted to maybe marry them or be in covenant with them, and then once you learned about them, when you saw some of their habits, maybe they picked their nose, or they had a bad attitude, or they were just didn't have high character, maybe they were a liar, whatever the case may be. And once you learn about them, and this is normally through a pattern. Okay, because Yahusha, Yah says, I change not. I'm the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. Who he was before is who he is today. He has not changed. Who he was with the disciples is the same person as who he is today. Okay, and so when you learn about a person, if you ever met someone and you learn about the person, then you had to count the cost. You had to make a decision like, do I want to continue in this friendship? There have been people I was friends with that I had to cut off. There are people that I was dating that I had to cut off. And so you have to make a decision. Once you learn about a person, when you learn their way, you have to then make a decision on if you want to continue in that relationship, if you want to continue in that friendship. So what are you doing? You are counting the cost. He says, separate from them, come out from among them. Be ye separate. He didn't say we're supposed to be friends with those in the world. He says, come out from among them. So we are being called to count the cost. You've ever been in a relationship with someone because of the things they were doing and they wouldn't repent? You had to say, look, this is not even worth it. It was, weighing on your mental health, your sanity. And you say, this is not even worth it. You ever worked at a job and you like, once you learned of the job and you thought that this was a position you wanted, maybe because it had a glorious title, but once you got in and you saw the weight and the stress of it, and you said, "Oh, this is not even worth it. This is stressing me out. This is making me sick." And you have to quit. This is what we've been called to do, even with Yahusha, to count the cost of what it's going to take. He says to follow me, to learn of me, and then remain in me. You have to continue, because only those that endure to the end shall be saved. when we are running a race, do they give the prize to the one who quit? What race have you seen if there are a number of people in a race and they give the prize to the one who quit? We must remain. We must continue. Do they reward you for entering the race? No. They'll say, well, we're going to give you this because you entered. No. There's no consolation prize for those who entered the race. You must finish the race. The prize goes to the one who finishes the race. And so we must continue. We must finish the race. Matthew 18, verses 2 and 3. And Yahusha called a little child unto him and set him in the midst of them. And he said, truly I say to you, unless you are converted and become as little children, you will in no means or by no means enter into the kingdom of heaven. So he said, he brought a child to them into the midst. And he says, truly I say to you, unless you are converted, meaning you change and you become as, this is the metaphor using like or as, and assembly. And it said, unless you be converted and become as little children. We have to think about the mind of a child. A child's mind is pure. Children don't learn hate unless they're taught. Children are gullible. They believe whatever we tell them. When you have a child, you teach your children through your life, how you treat them, how you talk to them, how you love them or do not love them. You teach them if it is safe, based on if you provide security for them. Or when children are in a home where they may not feel safe, if they're witnessing abuse or they themselves are being abused or they're not being provided for. Children learn through doing. Okay, we as adults learn through doing. And so you think about the heart of a child, how children are gullible. Think about children. Why do you think he said a child? Why a child? And I just wanted to put this. So like I was a kindergarten teacher for many years. Prina's mom was my paraprofessional. And those children would come in, 4 and 5-year-olds, and they were just like these children you saw on the screen. They had their hands raised up. They were eager to learn. I could do anything funny and be goofy with them. And they would be like, oh, you're so funny. Like anything I did, they loved me. The children were always eager to learn. Children are eager to learn. Children are sponges. They're like, they come in the world as blank slates and you're able to input information into them. How do you think children learn language? They learn it because they hear, and whatever it is that they hear, that's what they speak. So if they grow up in a home and the children are speaking German, they speak German. If their parents speak French, they speak French. If your children hear their children speak Spanish, that's what they speak. My parents grew up speaking English, so that's what I speak. And those who don't speak those languages, if you grow up, I had to learn how to speak Spanish. I know how to speak some Spanish now, but I had to learn how to speak Spanish. So someone had to teach me that. But I grew up hearing the language and I learned and spoke the language that I heard. Whatever I heard my parents say, I spoke. You ever hear your children? You're doing things and they tell you be careful what you say because you think your children are not listening. They're always listening. Have you ever had your children repeat something? That I had a student in kindergarten. Her mom we had a Spanish teacher that was kind of overweight a little bit. And the mom, I guess she was at home speaking on gossiping on the phone about the Spanish teacher. And she came to school and she repeated exactly what her mother said. The Spanish teacher came in and she said, hey, she spoke to the little girl and the little girl said, you know what? My mama said you fat. And she was like, what? And she was so offended. Now, this Spanish teacher took it the wrong way. She confronted the mother when she came, and she should not have done that. But that's how she was so, the mother was so angry that the child said it, that she beat this girl so bad in front of me. I had to intervene myself and ban the mother from coming in the room. She had took my pointer. I had a pointer that I use with the kids, like the shape of a man, like a pointer, a staff. And when I'm at the board and pointing the teacher, the students to where I'm, want them to pay attention on the board. And she broke my pointer on this child's back and did like some wrestling move. And we had to call the police on her. And so this was all because she heard her mother repeating this, and she just came back. And so you do have to be careful. So children, that goes back to what Yahusha said, whatever I hear my father say, that is what I say. My words are not my own. Those were not her words. Those were the words of her mother. And so children, again, are like sponges. And so we're told to train a child up in the way that they should go. And when they're old, it will not be depart. So train in context mean to be experienced in its use. Remember, being yoked, okay? An ox that has been trained is fit for good use. We've been talking about this for weeks now. An ox that has been trained is fit for good use. And so to be tamed means to bend to the will of another, to bend to the will of another. And so an older, experienced ox teaches the younger ox. And so in a family, the parents teach their children, train up the child, Yah says, in the way that he or she should go. Who is the way? Yahusha is the way, the truth, and the life. And so the younger, inexperienced ox learns from the older, experienced oxen, just as the child or children learn from their parents or from their teachers. And so the idea is to learn by association. This is how we mature in Yahusha, when we are bound to him, okay? Because he says, take my yoke upon you, put it up on your shoulders, just like you see the white oxen have that yoke upon them, okay? The yoke is bound to the neck of the oxen to turn it into whatever direction that it wants it. And so that yoke is placed over the shoulders. The yoke represents the work that the oxen does, and it also represents knowledge and experience. So when you are experienced in him, you are yoked together. And so those who are yoked together are joined together, they're fastened together tightly and secure. So we have to be like children, because if we're not like children, if we're not going to be like how Martha was, sitting at his feet, eagerly waiting, we want to be busy running around. He said, she's doing the right thing. You're not going to see the kingdom. And so on April the 26th, it was yesterday, during my morning prayer around this 8 o'clock hour, the Ruach had reminded me of something as we speak about the path. The Ruach reminded me of the children of Yasharel when they were on their journey from Egypt to the promised land. And there were 4 different wilderness that they came upon on this journey. And one of the wilderness was the wilderness of Shur, which means wall or to tie or to cord. So you use a cord to tie or to bind. That was the first wilderness. Then it tells you in Exodus 16 that they went to the wilderness of Shin. Shin means to be afflicted, and it also means clay or thorn. And so clay, we use clay to be molded. So first, the children of Israel, that first wilderness of Shur is that wall. Okay, they came out through that wall. The waters were lifted up when Moses put that staff in the water, and there was an upheat. There was a wall, and there was a narrow path that they walked through. Okay, it means Shur means wall, it means to tie, it means cord. So they were being bound to him as he was pulling them out. And then it means affliction. They were going through, that means affliction. And it also means clay, the wilderness of Shin. Clay is to be molded. So he's going to bound us, tie us to him, and then he's going to shape and mold us as we have put that yoke on our neck to carry it to as an inexperienced oxen to learn. And then when they got to, and I said this on last Shabbat, the wilderness of Rephidim, it means rest or resting place or comfort. When they're being brought into their resting place, their place of comfort. And then the mountain of Sinai. This is where Moses received the law. And it means Sinai means fleece, sharing of the sheep or the shearing, not sharing, shearing. So when they shear the sheep, they're cutting, they're clipping off the wool. So once he got them, they were given the law. And so when you think about those five foolish virgins, you think about the wick. We're the lamp and the wick. We have to trim off the things that will hinder us on our journey. And so what the reason why these four wilderness it came to memory and what the rock was brought to my remembrance is do not forget, never forget the journey, because our people they started on the path, but they didn't finish. They started the race, but the majority of our people did not enter into the land of Canaan. They did not enter into the promised land. When Joshua they had to cross over Jericho, it was only Joshua and Caleb and those who were under 20, the age of 20. They did not. They did not enter in. The majority of them died in the wilderness. That Ezekiel 37, those dry bones lay dead in that wilderness. They did not enter in. They did not enter in. But today, we are those bones that have been awakening, that have been given water, that have been prophesied to. That prophecy is speaking the inspired word under the direct inspiration of the Ruach that is awakening us, that is going to allow us to come out and to be able to continue in this path. We are those that are in the world where everything around us is dead in darkness, and we are that light. Everything around us is dying, but we're flourishing because we're planted like a tree by the rivers of water that gives us fruit in its season, and our leaves will not wither, and all that we do will prosper. We are like light that's in a dark, dead, and dying world. This is what we look like. This green tree that's flourishing, even though it's in the midst of a dying world, this is what we should look like. If we're on the straight and narrow road because we're bearing fruit, our leaves are not withering because we are connected to the source, the streams of water, who is Yahusha, the living water. He is our direct source. So no matter what is going on around us, we're always going to be refreshed, and we're always going to be fulfilled. We have to finish. We cannot quit. We cannot give up. He has told us to have our loins girded about with truth. Have the loins of our minds guarded about with truth. Take heed lest no man deceives you. In today's message, he has told us to enter in by the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who are going in it. But straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to life, and there are few that find it. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring my sis in.
Hallelujah. What a sobering, uplifting message. I'm telling you, I love how you started out with Little Red Riding Hood and how you just wonderfully animated that. I was just overjoyed with that.
Hallelujah.
Yes, hallelujah. And I haven't heard that version with her doing the, not, following the narrow path, but
No, I added that in.
Oh, you added that in. Okay.
Because that's basically what the Ruach gave.
Illustrator. I know you are author, so okay.
The Ruach led me to add that in because basically that's what she did. Because her mother told her go straight. She said go straight to your mother's house. She did not go straight. She got off the straight road to go explore the wide road, and she left herself vulnerable when she did. She said go straight there. The key word is straight.
Yes. I just love, I mean, I love, you know, that listening to that animation. And I wrote down some things, you know, because the mother, and just how you started out with revisiting from our previous weeks. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Don't
yeah,
let nobody deceive you. And then the belt of truth. But anyway, her mom gave her, like you started in the beginning, you know, your parents give you specific rules and things that they ask you to do before they leave to keep you safe. So she did the same thing with, you know, Little Red Riding Hood, just to go you know, straight to the grandmama house. Don't talk to strangers. And
yeah,
Little Red Riding Hood promised, you know, like, I promise I won't, you
yeah,
know, go off the narrow path. And I just was like in awe of that illustration, because it brought like the you know the message to life. You know, it's like that
yeah,
big,
right,
you know. And then when she get to the house, you know,
right,
grandma, what, you know, she like, look, that ain't my grandmama, that don't look like my grandmama.
right, right. And that's how he says, my sheep hear my voice. They know my voice, and the stranger they won't
Absolutely.
follow. You got to
Absolutely.
know his voice. Like, wait a minute, grandma, you sound a little different. That's how we should be when somebody comes to you talking about Joseph as a father. You be like, grandma,
Right. Right.
your voice sounds a little strange.
Right. Absolutely. And then just going in those definitions from you know, the third reminder, entering through the narrow gate, you know, going
Hmm.
straight, and what narrow and broad is, because it really, you know, helped to see, you know, what Yahusha was speaking, and how, you know, you are, when you going into that narrow gate, is you what to expect. You're going to expect trouble, you're going to expect affliction and suffering and tribulation,
Hmm.
stress. And then, like you said, on the broad road, you know, you're going to be all inclusive, because that's what they doing now.
Yeah,
Everything is
oh
fair
yes,
game.
yes. There's
Yes.
no rules, there's no
No.
boundaries. You
No.
know, everything, whatever you want to do is acceptable. And
Yes.
that's what many people in a lot of people call themselves believers in the church. This is what they believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I believe in myself. There's no scripture in there that says
Mhm.
believe in yourself. Not
No.
one.
No.
Not
No.
one. There's
Not
no
one.
scripture. That's what this whole so-called self-care and
Yeah.
self-love that you see on social media is nothing but a self-idolatry.
Yeah.
Okay. Packaged as loving Yah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was, while sending you on the pit to hell.
Yeah, yeah, you
Uh,
on it. They putting you on the broad road. That's why
right.
it's
That
acceptable,
that
because
trap. That.
all are accepted. You know,
Mhm.
anyone, whatever you want, you know, we can
Mhm.
all coexist, is what they tell you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. And then I love the benefits of the straight, you know, and narrow, like the path that you gave, you know.
Mhm.
And I will run the way of the commandments. Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light to my path.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yes.
The benefits
Yes.
of
The
walking on the
benefits.
straight and narrow road.
Yes.
Yes.
And I love, you know, when you talked about, because you show how Judah, you know, how with Jeremiah, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, they
uh,
said we will not walk on it.
we will not. And we see it to today. We
Yeah,
can
they
see
will not.
they will not turn to that ancient path, you know,
No,
look
they'll
that
tell you
way.
this is not what I believe. I believe this. And it's like we not talking about what you
You
believe.
believe, right?
Your
Especially
belief wasn't established, like I told you. Where was you in the beginning when I established the commands and when I separated the war? Like, where were you at? Like, this is not about you.
right. And just going over the definition of gate, you know,
Hmm.
back and forth, and the door on the ride, the door on the ride, and just going over that purpose of the gate, you know, because it is, the gate is to keep you safe, and I, you know, and or to keep things out, you know. Just if you remember, like when you have children and young babies, and if you had a
Hmm.
issue, didn't want them to go, like near stairs or different things.
Right. Yes.
You
Yes.
put a
Yes.
gate
Great example. Yes.
protect them. And so I just, that's that illustration alone, and just going over, those scriptures and walking the narrow walk, all those scriptures that that Yahusha told his disciples on how to walk the narrow walk. And then I really truly love the tortoise and the hare. That
I
video,
know.
I was like amazed, because you hear the story, but then when you see it in action,
Yes.
and then saw
Yes.
how the hare did get distracted, and it was looking around and being nosy, but that hare, that tortoise had a straight tunnel vision. He was like, I'm gonna keep walking straight, and
Yes.
so that was awesome, that
Yeah. The
video.
race is not given to the swift.
But what permeated in my spirit towards the end, and y'all brought it back to remembrance, when we did gentleness.
Oh,
um
yes. Yes. Exactly. Yes.
yes,
The fruit of
that
gentleness.
give you that wisdom and discernment, and the scripture came to mind that walking circumspectly is Proverbs 4:24 through 27. I'm sorry, I'm gonna read it really quick.
Okay.
It says, with 25 through 27, it says, let your eyes look forward, fix your gaze straight ahead, make a level path for your feet, and all your ways will be sure. Do not swerve to the left or to the right. Turn your feet away from evil. And so that scripture just permeated, as we were closing out and just entering that narrow gate. You have to have this mindset, and I truly, truly, this was truly a wonderful lesson and a message. Oh, and I love the beautiful thing about the race of salvation is that it is not only limited to the one who will win the race. It's not limited.
Yeah. Many
That
winners.
really, that was like just so awesome, that that just so sobering here. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And
That's what I
it's
heard
so
God
true.
say.
It is so true, because when
It's not limited to one winner.
no, because in a race, it's only one winner.
It's only one winner. That's what the beautiful thing about this race
Yeah,
of salvation that we on, that there is more. It's not limited to one winner. All who endure and finish will be rewarded and obtain the promise of salvation. And so that is the reason why we are doing these things. And so we want to just thank you
yeah.
for did you have anything else you want to share,
No,
sis?
sis, that was my last.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, we want to thank you for joining us. We pray that you continue journeying with us on these final hour series. I don't know how many it's going to be. It could be 2 or 3 more. I don't know, but as the walk is giving me, I am going through them, and I pray that it is edifying you, that it is building you up and preparing you for the things that are to come, and
yeah,
reminding you of those things that He said that we will endure and have to endure, and things that will occur in this walk. I don't want anyone leaving away not knowing what it means to walk on that straight and narrow road. When He tells you to enter into the narrow gate, what did He mean? Most people have no idea what that means, and that's the reason why He had me do this today, so you have an understanding of what that narrow walk looks like and what you can expect. And no matter how difficult it is, we continue to endure. We cannot give up, okay? And so may Yah bless and keep thee. May He make His face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. May He lift up His countenance upon thee and give thee peace. In Yahusha's name, so be it. Enjoy the rest of your Sabbath.